Welcome to Wife's a Bitch podcast with a very special guest. They're all special, but we have an extra special guest here today. This is my mother-in-law, Roni Silverberg. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Victoria. We don't get to spend enough time together as it is,
That's
right?
true. You
So
live in
that's
San Francisco and I live in New York. So here's my book called Impress Yourself. I also have my shirt on, Wife's a Bitch podcast. It's my new brand. And here we go. Let's ride this little horse and buggy and see where we end up, right? I have to say that many daughter-in-laws don't love their mother-in-law, but I am a huge fan of my mother-in-law. I'm so grateful to have such a great mother-in-law. I'm not just saying that because she's here. I tell the
because I
truth.
live 3,000 miles away and I
That's
can't
that
interfere.
helps. That helps. You're calling. No, but I've used her for many, many, many years as a sounding board, and I appreciate you listening to me because it's not easy to listen about your son when I'm complaining about it. But you've done a great job of it, and I'm grateful for that. And I've learned a lot from you. She's very intellectual, and she knows her stuff. She has experience. You have experience, and it's your son, and you just knew to just, maybe you gave me advice, and I take it now 20 years later. And married, I'm with Michael 26 years. I'm married 25 years. And the last 6 years have been where I really incorporated your advice. It took me a long time. I was too afraid to use it and become as strong as I am today because I had young children. I was afraid to lose Michael because I'm very much in love with him. But I realized now that the things that I needed were right there in front of me. I just didn't use them, and now I wish I could just impart my knowledge and your knowledge and give it to somebody else who wants to get something out of this. And I promise you, you will not fail if you listen to this advice. The first thing I would say is not be needy. I was very needy. I was in the whole idea of putting my husband first, which is great, but there should be a balance. And I didn't have that balance. It was just him or nothing. And I just wanted to keep impressing him and impressing him. At the end of the day, I finally impressed myself. And that's why I wrote a book, which she edited. Thank you very much. She's so smart. What did you
Yeah,
think?
well, I think girls, of course, we're in a new generation now, so I really, you may be off base with this, but my experience has been that girls are raised to be people pleasers. And we lose sight or never gain sight of who we are as individuals because we're so busy taking care of other people and their needs that we forget to take care of ourselves. We don't always get to know who we are. And we become very reliant on other people's approval
Right.
of what we're doing. But Vicky came into her own, as I hope every woman will, to realize we have inner strengths. We're given gifts by God, and we have to discover what those gifts are, and we're obliged to develop them and share them with the world.
Right.
And it isn't just cooking and cleaning and raising children, or even having a career. A career can be satisfying, but not necessarily reflect our deepest um, gifts
Right.
of who we are and what we need to do to develop ourselves. And Vicky got to that point in life.
I mean, it took me a while. I'm 54 now, but which is the age that I met you.
Yes.
Um,
Same age as when you married Michael.
So we did the math, but anyway. But she's got a lot of life in her, and I have to say, you are still very with it, and I mean, God bless you. You really are around for a lot of stuff. So it's been a pleasure to give you grandchildren and see them, watch them grow, right? Um, but I also realized that there was a lot of stuff that I was doing where I was using you as a lifeline. I was using your mother as a lifeline because I felt very close and I cared so much that I wanted them to just talk to their son or grandson and just help me out. And there was really nothing that they could do except I felt badly. I feel badly now that I left those marks kind of thing, like those grooves. I mean, I think that you were smart enough to know that I was just, venting, but my Michael, her son, my husband, felt very embarrassed, that I was telling his mom about him. And that's where he grew resentment. And I would tell that to any woman out there. to this, if you want to use your mother-in-law as a sounding board, going with caution. There's a lot of downsides to that too. But you were really there for me. So you gave me advice that I didn't use till later, and I want to tell people what it is, which is first you said when I had little children, you said do one thing and don't worry about the rest. And you don't have to have a whole, list of things to do when you're a new mother. And anything else after that one thing that's important to do, you have the energy for, it's a bonus. And I took that to heart that I really use till today. But also, it helps me with work ethic. It keeps me organized, but also takes off the pressure. But the other thing is that you said that you're a very big believer in behavior modification, which I knew nothing about. Grow up with five. I'm one of five children, and I just didn't know anything about this. And you went to different classes and courses, and you were already very experienced, and you knew Michael very well. But the thing that she really, and she'll talk about it now, is that behavior modification is basically do something different, and then they're forced to do something different. And I didn't really implement that until later.
Well, Vicky, you hit on quite a few subjects that I think really need to be explored a little bit more. Number one, you talked about calling me, and of course, being cautious about calling a mother-in-law about her son. That's well taken. But even more significant is that you did reach out. A lot of people don't have or don't take the initiative to reach out to somebody. It's very, very important.
And they're in their own hell.
You
They're in
can't sit
prison.
in isolation
Yeah.
and wring your hands over your discontent. You need to have somebody who will listen to you. Somebody who will give you advice or give you answers or tell you what to do, but rather sometimes we just need somebody to listen to us.
Right.
So I encourage all women, find somebody, and it can be a dear friend, it can be a relative, a therapist, just to listen to you, just to be able to vent your feelings. You also mentioned about behavior modification, and I think this is very significant. If we keep repeating the same patterns in a relationship, let's say your husband or your partner and the other party, if you will, throws ball A at you and causes a reaction that's B, and you react with B. As long as they keep throwing A, you're going to keep throwing B. No change. It's going to be A, B, A, B. But if you get that ball, you're the recipient and you respond with C, all of a sudden A, D doesn't work anymore. And A has to find a way to deal with this new C.
Yeah.
And that's what brings about not only their behavior change, but your behavior change too. You have a new dynamic. Um, I did take, before I separated from my first husband, I did take a course on assertiveness. We have a tendency when people provoke us to react, to just react right away without thinking. You have to respond, and responding takes thought, takes time, takes practice. And assertiveness training will teach you techniques to respond in a more effective way than reacting. For example, if somebody provokes you, rather than biting back at them, you can say, "You may be right. I'd like to think about that." First of all, saying you may be right to them right away diffuses the conflict. You may be right, and I'd like to think about it, gives you time to remove yourself from the situation and to think about a more appropriate response. And you become a broken record, a broken. Don't get pulled in. Don't get sucked into the manipulation. Just think, you may be right. I'd like to think about it. I'll get back to you. Get back to you. And if they're still provoking you, gotta go. Sorry, but I gotta go. I'll get back to you. Don't allow yourself to get sucked into the intimidation and manipulation.
Yeah. I also am more aware of what I'm doing as a person in regards to every relationship that I have. It didn't just, I mean, I went to therapy with Michael, which helped, but it also drudged a lot of things that were, you know, coming up to the surface that almost sometimes didn't need to. There's certain things that are just better left unsaid, because then certain things and you just feel like you can't let it go. But as far as getting to know yourself and working on yourself, that is the key that I found. That's why I wrote this book called Impress Yourself, and I'm actually writing another book about relationships because of my knowledge and what you've imparted on me. I think the world needs to know it. But the impressing myself part and working on myself. I mean, if you can't take care of yourself, you're good for no one. And this podcast and my book is not for you. Because if you can't take care of yourself, it means that you don't care enough, even about your own self, which you're with 24/7. If you're not good enough to yourself, you really, nobody else is going to really be good to you either
Yeah.
or respect you.
I was telling Vicky years ago, I was complaining to a friend about all the responsibilities that I had. Of course, I was a wife, I was a mother, I had a career, I had carpools, I had shopping, I had haircuts. I mean, if you're a mother, a career mother, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And she stopped me and she said, what do you do for yourself? And it shocked me. It
Yeah.
never even occurred to me to do something for myself. We all need space and time to be alone with ourselves, to
Yeah.
do something that just gives us pleasure.
Yeah.
And you need to do that on a regular basis.
Mhm.
I always told my children, you can't always be number one. That was a hard thing for me to say.
To say,
Yes, to say to them, you can't always be number one. Right now, you have to be number one. Very important to take care of yourself and do something that gives you, go for a massage. Whoops.
I know, I mentioned that in my book.
Yeah.
Also, my father said a quote that I always listen to in my head. You can't have a thrill a minute. My father would have gone along with you so well if he had met you. You both love, touring around and you're both history buffs. But the whole feeling of, just teaching it to your children by example. And I think you did. And I think because you're so independent, your son is independent and he's shown me things adventure wise that I've never ever even imagined. The fact that I even have a husband that came back from Mount Everest. Uh, what's your feeling on
He's
Mount
one of
Everest?
a kind. He's one of a kind.
But you said you told me before that your feeling about Mount Everest was you were scared just like I
Of
was. As a
course.
mother, I can't even imagine. But you were also impressed because
I'm a big believer in making your dreams come true. And I think when people get involved with their careers or their families, they stop dreaming. They forgot about what they dreamt about. Um, what they wanted to see and do and experience in life. And they just like let the routine take over. Don't stop dreaming. In fact, I bought letters that spell out the word dream, DREAM, and I hung them over my closet in the bedroom. And so I would see them every morning and every night. Don't give up your dreams. Make your dreams come true. That's what I once said at my funeral. She made her dreams come true.
in 120 years. Um, and also, I wanted to touch upon how relationships seem to ignite more the more you reflect on a good memory, such as meeting your spouse for the first time. That brings up, unless it was a bad day, um, the reason why you got into the relationship in the first place. My true north has always been when I center myself to the memories that are good, and then it brings me back to why I'm with it still. Because we forget why we're with somebody, and if you don't continue to remind yourself, you're going to go back into, your old ways of fighting and arguing and not remember why you're with each other in the first place. I think I have a healthy relationship now for the first time ever. The last 6 years have been amazing. Uh, do we have some flaws that we have to work on, both of us? Absolutely. But as a whole, I'm accepting more than I ever did. I didn't accept before. There was a very kind of mentality of mine as a salesperson to keep pursuing and persisting and being a nag and annoying and trying to get my way that way. That only turned my husband off. And I think anybody would get turned off by that. I would be too. So you really have to reflect on how it is that you want to go about a situation. Like when my husband argues with me, I'm just like, it's going to pass. Just like a wave, just like an ulcer, just like weather, rain, a cloud, it's going to pass. You can make your voice heard, let them know how you feel, and then walk out of the room.
I think it's very important, two things to remember: to be kind. Be kind to other people and be kind to yourself. And very often, if somebody is chewing you out about something, if you respond in a quiet voice, that will diffuse the explosion that's taking place.
Yeah. Or just walk out.
Yeah, or just
Just
say,
say, you know
I
what?
gotta go.
I gotta go, or I'll
When
think
you're
about it.
ready to talk,
Yeah.
I'm willing to talk.
Well, like what you always say,
Yeah,
I'll have to think about
I
that.
have to think about
I'll have to think about that. It's an answer. You might not like the answer, but it's the answer that you're giving right now, and it gives somebody a chance to take a breather. A lot of people also are running on no sleep. I
it.
find
Yeah,
that you have to take care of yourself that way. For me, number one is sleep, and don't be so quick to do everything. That's why that one thing is good because you only have a certain amount of energy a
do
day.
one thing. So
Do one
I
thing.
was telling Vicky, I'm a type A personality. I have a list every day. I have a list, and it was a habit of mine to, of course, not accomplish everything on the list because the day's only 24 hours. And then I would deride myself for not doing everything. And I've overcome that by putting this note on my desk that says, "Do one thing." As long as you do one thing, the day's been worthwhile.
Yeah.
If you just do one thing. So my partner said to me, "Did you know from me?" I said, "What do you mean?" Because he,
So that
I beat
one thing. Context.
find that I should do something.
Well, that does help, but yeah, it will help. It helps the lazy, but also you're given a certain amount of energy. Where is your energy the most harnessed? And I think to me, it's right after a nice cup of coffee in the morning. And so I'll play a game of chess online and I have my brain power. That's the best I do in chess. Towards the end of the night, I'm feeling sleepy. I'm not doing as well. I'm not as sharp. So I would reserve even talking to a spouse or a partner when you have the most sleep and the most energy. Because if you're depleted, you're not going to have a good conversation. It's not going to go well. You should know that going in. So and you have enough sleep. That's why people say sleep on it. You really do need that energy to harness it in order to have the strength to hear the things that you might not want to hear.
Yeah.
And that will happen. You're gonna not want to hear certain things, but you have
Now is not a good time.
right.
Now
Right.
is not a
Well, even to say it to yourself, say now is not a good time. It just brought back a memory to me that when my father he was in Arkansas on a business trip, and apparently he stopped breathing because he had a quadruple bypass surgery. And then after that surgery, he stopped breathing. And my sister called me in the middle of the night, and I was on 2 hours of sleep. And she said, "Dad stopped breathing," and my heart went into shock, and my body went numb. And then a few hours later, I was exhausted. I said, "You know what? I'm not going to help the situation by not sleeping." I was at my aunt's house. We had to all go there, and I fell asleep. And I was revived. I mean, she woke me up, patting my head to tell me the news. But I'm thankful. Till now, I remember this. I'm thankful that I had the sleep to hear the information that I was about to hear. That was really bad information for me. I was my father's best friend, and he was my best friend. So thank God I had that nap because it helped me to deal with the sorrow a lot more.
Yeah.
So sleep is very, very important in any relationship. And a lot of people, there's one that's lacking a lot of sleep and the other one's not. That's another thing you should see. Is my partner, my spouse, my husband, my wife, whatever it is you want to call them, did they sleep enough?
Yeah. It's also important, I think, for couples to break the daily routine from time to time. I always told my children, go away with your spouse for a 3 day or even better, a 4 day weekend, just the two of you. Do that 3 or 4 times a year. You don't have to go to an expensive resort. You can go to a Motel 6,
Right.
and just
Focus on each other.
just focus on the two of you.
Yeah.
Close the rest of the world
Yeah.
and reignite
Yeah.
the reason that you are together
Right.
and came together. It's very important not to let the routine take over
Get
your entire
stale.
life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've found also that sometimes you need a break from each other also. I never used to welcome the break. I used to get too sad about the break and
Hmm.
think that he wasn't giving me enough attention, which is the opposite. The more I'm away from him, the more he thinks about me. It's not in every case, and it's not in every relationship, but in my case, I've been noticing that. And I've also noticed that, like even now, I'm separated from him, like he's in New York and I'm in New Jersey. I mean, we're still very much together, but we're separate physically. And I don't call him. I used to call him all the time, and he was busy. And because I called him, he knew I was okay, so he didn't have to check in on me. So now I don't call him at all. Unless I really need something, I don't even text him. And sometimes I don't even answer his text right away, not on purpose. It's naturally because I'm really liking my own
You've
time.
come into
Yes,
your own
yes,
also. You've come into your own, and
yes.
not as you said, needing.
Needing.
You're not as dependent on him to
Yeah,
feel good about yourself.
right.
You have other things going on that please you.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And I feel
Self
so much more.
satisfaction.
And he's more attracted to me because of
Yeah,
it. That's the
absolutely.
key. That's the thing that I used to
Absolutely.
get mixed up on. I'm like, if I paid more attention to him and told him how much I loved him and how much he needed to give back to me, that would make it more attractive. It's just the opposite. I did it when I was dating naturally. I didn't know I was doing it. I didn't really care. He was a younger guy. I didn't really care. And he naturally started liking me and coming after me because the case was there. He was interested. I was semi-interested, and he saw it as a challenge. And I think that that never goes away,
Mhm.
and you should never let that go away. To all women out there, I have to tell you that if you're not married, let me tell you, the game does not end when you get married. It continues. If anything, it starts. It's a different kind of game, but the game is that you really do need to have a life, and even if you have to force yourself to look like you have a life, or at least
Well,
have one.
they say men find women who are independent or self-sufficient find them attractive.
Yeah. But not to a point where they are overpowering with their careers and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, men are people too. They want attention.
Right.
They want attention.
Exactly.
Sure.
And I think it's very
But I
important.
think men like intelligent women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, you were a very good mother to your kids, and with Michael in particular, you made him very independent. You'd given him tough love. There were times that you didn't know if you didn't know how to navigate either. It was
Well,
hard on
I'll tell
him.
you now, I was a teacher after I retired from my career, which was in sales and marketing. I started teaching children, basically third, fourth, fifth graders. Okay. And unfortunately, I found too many parents being helicopter parents,
Yeah.
just hovering over their kids constantly, managing their kids' lives constantly, indulging their children constantly. And there are any number of stories that I could tell you where I was shocked by both the children and the parents' behaviors. I once had an occasion where, and I didn't like doing this, but the situation called for it. I asked a student to put very nicely, please take a chair and go sit in the corner because even though you don't want to learn, that's okay. Nobody's going to force you to learn. If you're not interested in learning, that's okay. But you can't keep other people from learning. You can't interfere with their learning. I got a call from the father that night chewing me out. How dare you make my child sit in the corner?
People forgot
Now
about
tell
punishment.
me, maybe I'm old fashioned, but would you have gone home and told your father that the teacher made you sit in the corner? I'd be ashamed of my father to find that out. And I
No, these
just,
kids are coddled.
yeah,
There's no question.
yeah.
There's no question.
And I think people are not doing their children a favor
No, I
doing
used to
that.
tell my kids to fight your own battles. until it's really necessary.
Yeah.
It's time to, stick up for yourself and do it yourself because, just like I've written in my book, if there's a baby chick trying to get out of a shell, if you help it, you're going to hurt it because it's not going to have the strength to fly away from a real predator.
Yeah.
So you have to let it do its work. And that's the only way to learn. And that's what happened to me. I had to almost get divorced twice. And then finally had a third chance. Thank God. We both had that third chance to get back together and then finally make it work. And I think that's why we argue less also, or we just let things go more, because we're just exhausted
We have to
from
allow our children
crap that didn't work.
yeah,
All the crap.
rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
rise to the occasion, and learn how to deal with life's challenges.
I'll tell you what my kids do know. That they saw fighting with Michael and I, but they saw that we came back. And that's a really nice lesson to teach you. I mean, I didn't plan on it, but that's something that they see now that maybe they'll take with them. That you just don't leave just because you
Well, that's one thing I admire
you
about my
work.
daughter-in-law here. This woman here is the most loyal person I've ever met in my life. She doesn't just walk away. She's there. She's there and she's going to make it work. That's all. She's committed to the relationship and she's in there for the long term.
Thank you.
I really admire that.
I mean, there were times that we were separated and I had to find myself and I was out there, but I came back.
But you know what? Something good came out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do recommend when people are really at a crossroads in their relationship, I think a break really does work.
Mm,
I didn't want a break.
mm.
I didn't want it at all, but God gave me a gift, and that was when Michael finally said, "Vicky, just go find someone else," and it just clicked. My brain just snapped, and I said, "Oh my God, what am I doing, Vicky? You lost yourself." And I buried that girl. She's no longer available. She no longer exists.
And
I
what did
gave
your
her a
friend
funeral.
Elizabeth say to you?
So my friend Elizabeth told me in the times that we were thinking of getting divorced, uh, she said, "What are you doing? You're going to trade measles for mumps? You're going to get one disease and get another. You're going to get rid of one disease, get another one, or you're going to train your husband to be so great at being married to someone else." That was great advice. Great advice. I mean, I didn't act on it right away. I was too afraid to again use those tools, but I really feel like now I could I could do it, and I want to impart that on you. Anyone who's listening, I promise you, there are so many tough times that you're going to go through, but if you can get through the hard times and really just take the advice I'm giving you, which is just don't be needy. Don't be needy. Get a life. Get a life. Oh, you don't have to have a career. You could volunteer. You could do things that you love to do. If you love to act or sing or dance or whatever it is, take an hour and dance in your basement and whatever you have to do to make yourself happy. Get a massage, get the pedicure, the manicure, whatever it is. It's not going to break your piggy bank. Little things, simple things. Go for a walk.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. And
That's a great piece of
I
advice.
can't tell you how many times
Go
it saved my
for a
life.
walk.
It saved my life.
Me too.
Comedy
Me
saved me
too.
too. Comedy saved me. I found what made me happy, which was connecting with others and making them laugh. And that to me, or writing a joke, the process of writing a joke, it just made me so much happier that it forgot that I was angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could actually forget.
Yeah.
What do you do with a child when they fall down? You distract them. And then they forget that they're in pain sometimes. You just have to distract yourself sometimes. Some people are afraid to be distracted. Oh, I'm procrastinating, being distracted. You're meant to be distracted. You have to take breaks. You can't do everything in one go. You have to take bites. That's why we have teeth, as a reminder. It's to take bites, take bites. You don't just swallow things.
Yeah.
You have to take bites. And with that, you digest better everything. Everything is really connected like that, right? Think about it. Our body gives us all the clues, right? I remember hearing from the rabbits and young grays that we have two lips, two sets of teeth, and one tongue. That means we have two guards, four guards to guard our tongue.
Your tongue. That's very clever.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And you just really have to really be reminded that You're in control more than you think you know. You're in control.
We're coming really full circle again to the idea of
Yeah, yeah.
responding rather than reacting.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole getting into getting into a conundrum of not knowing what to do. Go for that walk. You'll discuss it when you have enough sleep and enough, self care, and then you're ready. And you know what? You might not like the outcome, and somebody might not want to still be married to you, or somebody might not still want to, talk to you or be in a relationship with you. But you have yourself. You're your own best friend, and find the people that want to. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the best
Well,
thing
that
you can do?
happened to me. I was alone for 27 years, which sounds like an interminable amount of time. Even I have trouble wrapping my head around that period of time. But I put it to very good use. As I said, I made my dreams come true. Things that interested me, like I'm a big history buff and I do a lot of reading about historical figures and then go on road trips following their route, exposing myself to beautiful things in nature, the Southwest, traveling, went on a lot of road trips, uh, and indulging myself in what gave me pleasure, and people need to do that.
And you have a good relationship with your creator, with God.
Absolutely. I have a that's really at the foundation of my life,
Yeah.
is my relationship to God. I could not have gotten through the challenges in my life. I mean this quite sincerely, without the support, the encouragement, um, and the protection of my creator.
Yeah.
It's not something that a lot of people cultivate.
Or could tap into.
Yeah, or tap into. I have a cousin by marriage who grew up in a very observant family. And she said to me, God talks to you? And I said, yes. She said, well, God doesn't talk to me. My answer, are you listening? You have to listen.
Yeah. I think it's so important to just be aware of your surroundings and the way you've been brought up, but also be aware of your spirit. Your spirit is so important, and people can't find it because they're always like you said, doing
Busy.
things, yeah, busy or
They're
doing something.
busy.
It's good to keep busy, but it's also good to turn off and to recharge your battery. Everybody has battery. That's what goes back to sleep. Sleep on it. Sleep on it. Do things for yourself. This comes
My
back to the
mother
same
used
thing.
to say something that she lived by: gratitude and attitude.
Your mother was a very special woman.
Gratitude. Everybody needs to spend a few minutes every day appreciating what's good in their
Yeah, I used
lives.
to have a grateful list. I should do that again. Before I went to bed, I only did the positive. Didn't matter what was bad in the day. I only focused on I'm grateful for, and that's how I started each segment.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I'm going to do it again because I would go to sleep happier.
yeah.
Now I go to sleep to my cell phone, but I should just write down. And when you write it, it really does get programmed into your brain.
Yeah.
And the grateful list kept get growing.
Yes.
And the books kept growing. And, even if it's something simple, I'm grateful I had nice weather today. I'm grateful I went for a swim. I went for a run. I went for a walk. I resolved this problem. I wrote a new joke. Anything that makes you happy. And then you start accumulating that just like you would if you had money and you were a child and you were putting it in a piggy bank. You one day have a bunch of good stuff
That's right.
that's going to be programmed into your brain, and you're going to feel like happier, and you're not going to know why. Yeah, that's one of the ways
It
you can
really
get
does
happy.
affect your
It
attitude.
does.
Really
It does.
affects your
It
attitude.
does. Being grateful. I mean, the fact that, anybody, even really in America, is really spoiled. If you think about how much more we have at third world countries, you have running water, you have hot water. Hot water. Every time I get into a shower, I say to myself, I really do, I'm very appreciative of the hot shower. I say, oh my God, thank you. Even if I'm in hot climates, I know that the warm water, a warm shower is so much better than a cold shower. And I say to myself, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this warm. Is there any better feeling than a nice warm shower?
And for you to acknowledge
I do acknowledge
to
it.
take the time to acknowledge it. It's another thing I did when I was going through my maturation, if you will. I would write, something would strike me, that I wanted to remember. Just the phrase, I am a good person.
I like that.
I am a good person. When I had self doubts about myself, I am a good person. I would write it on a little slip of paper and put it on my bathroom mirror. I call them affirmations. So I would see that every morning and I'd see it every night. And I still have the collection of them. Affirmations. Another one that was there. And then I would sometimes put them in my car too. This one I put in my car. This too shall pass. Boy, that really gave me courage to keep going. This too shall pass. So if you find a phrase that resonates with you, post it. Post it on your bathroom mirror. Put it in your car, any place that you regularly see things to remind you. And after a while, they become, as you said, about gratitude. It becomes part of you, and it builds strength in you.
Yeah, it really does. And it will help others. And I think that if your cup is full, you are able to help other people. Like if you have an empty cup and you're depleted, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. And I think that that's really what we were created for. Give charity. And it doesn't mean that you have to give money. You can give your time. Do you know how much time people don't give to people? And that's all they needed.
And there's
Just
no
a
excuse.
text.
And you know what? There's this whole thing about loneliness today.
Yeah.
About people being lonely. The greater percentage of people, like they did surveys, feel a sense of. There's no reason for you to feel lonely.
Yeah.
Volunteer.
Right.
See
What that means. Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
Giving.
Yeah.
It's a way of receiving.
Yeah.
You feel better when
In fact, when you're depressed, I suggest people do that.
volunteer. Absolutely.
First thing you should do is give something to somebody.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Give your time
yeah.
to somebody.
Somebody needs it.
Somebody
Definitely needs
yeah.
it. Even if you're saying in a text to somebody or an email, I'm thinking of you. You know what that does to somebody? It's just energy. That's all you did. You didn't give it to them. There was no physical anything.
Yeah.
You just gave them a thought.
Yeah.
And they thought to themselves,
Somebody
that's going to ever regret taking that message.
Somebody was thinking of me.
Somebody's thinking of me. You start that out a lot of the times. In fact, she's a great gift giver because she gives what people want to have. She doesn't give just what she wants.
Yeah.
She gives what she thinks you have already expressed to her that you like. But the whole thing about saying I'm thinking about you, you start out sometimes with letters like that. I was thinking of you when I heard this. My father, I was telling my father something once, a problem I was having. He had 5 kids. He had a business. He didn't really have time. We were in a car ride. I don't even remember telling him. That night he came to me, so special. He said, Vicky, I thought about what you told me today, and I was thinking of a solution all day to your problem. I was like, I didn't even remember telling you. But he really took it into consideration, and that's love. Somebody doesn't have to give you a gift from Tiffany's to say they love you, although, we have a jewelry company, so scratch that. But no, you really do have so many ways to show somebody that you love them. In fact, whenever I get like insecure with my husband, he's like, honey, I'm doing it. I don't have to, show you all the time. I literally, made things happen for you, which he did. And I'm so grateful for him because he's been so good to me. And the more I think about the stuff he's sacrificed for himself to give to me, well, then take that trip, honey. You deserve your trip or whatever you want to do. And you want to go to Mount Everest, or even though it's going to kill me, if this is really what you want, you've given me so much.
But the thing that I think impressed me most about Michael climbing Mount Everest is that he admitted in his video that he went out of his own ego to boost. Not that he already has a big ego, okay, but this was just another boost to this big ego. But he realized, and he says it on the video, that this was not about him. He came to realize that other people rely on him, depend upon him, his wife, his children, his employees.
You've got 100 employees.
That he has to give consideration to them. But he's got to put them before he puts himself because they rely on him.
Mhm.
And he can't put himself in a position that would compromise their sense of security. That's really amazing that he
Yeah.
became aware of that.
Yeah, and I think he matured also. I mean, I married him when he was 22. I was 28. And there was a lot of stuff that we both had to learn. And we didn't know how to navigate. We just were fighting like brother and sister
Well,
almost, you know,
yeah,
because we only
you were
knew
very
that.
young. You were
Yeah, I was
very
a
young.
sheltered 28, and he was a very worldly 22.
Yeah,
But he's always been an old soul, I think. He's always had that.
he was born that way.
He was born a man.
Yeah. No, what from the moment I held him, he threatened me.
He frightens me now.
He had this energy about him that I could feel it. I could sense it.
You
And
have it in the other two.
and know that everybody who has children know that each child is different. Okay,
Definitely.
it's their nature. This was his
Definitely.
nature, but it was scary. As a matter of fact, when he was 6 months old, 6 or 7 months old, I took him to the pediatrician for his monthly checkup. Even the doctor said to me, "This is not an infant. This is an adult in an
Wow.
infant's body."
6 months?
He exuded this energy that was just so palpable.
Yeah. I tell you, he's an alpha male. It's an interesting way to be married to someone to an alpha male. I don't know if out there you're married to an alpha, if you're with an alpha male, but there are times there's a side of him that's completely generous and soft hearted and so giving that that's the drug I go after.
Yeah.
That's my dopamine
Yeah.
fix.
Yeah.
But I always end up giving in because he always gives in at the end. He does. He apologizes for an alpha male. That's crazy. So he does have that nice balance, which I really love. But the fact that um, alpha males are hard to live with, but they're even they take you everywhere. Everything's exciting, but they're also in control. But because of the fact that he's in control, I'm able to do things that I don't have to control. And that's where women have power. Women don't realize that you don't need a career in feminism and all this stuff to even declare your power. Your power, you could be strategic about it. If you see that someone's doing something for you, sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. I mean, someone's literally being your chauffeur and you're the VIP in the back. That's a great place to be. And that's where I'm at right now, where I'm realizing, oh my God, he's done so much to make me feel relaxed. How could I not enjoy that
That's a
relaxation?
very good perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Very
he's
good
given that to
attitude.
me. So you raised a good one. I loved having you on the podcast.
This was wonderful.
Thank you. We love each other. This is not normal for a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, is it? But I loved having her on, and I love having you here visiting. And yeah, if you have a mother-in-law out there, you know, you never know. You could have a really good talk with her or a podcast with her and see how it goes. But I'm grateful for my mother-in-law, Roni Silverberg. Thank you for joining me. And
Thank you for having me.
thank you. Thank you. And go to my website, wifesabitch.com. You can get some merchandise.
Don't forget
My book,
Precious.
Express Yourself. And my next book is going to be about relationships. And I think, you know, hopefully you get something out of it. Anyway, take care, everyone. Bye.